Lawmakers and advocates this morning say something has to be done about speeding drivers in New York City.
It comes after a horrific crash in Brooklyn that killed a mother and her two children. Another, a 4-year-old boy, is still in the hospital fighting for his life.
Authorities say that the driver was speeding at the time. She's still in the hospital, but faces a long list of charges.
You know that something had to go horribly wrong when the end result of the car accident that we're talking about has a vehicle in this state completely flipped over. For those of you who are my podcast listeners, completely busted up. And this, it turns out, is due to the fact that the driver behind this particular vehicle was operating with a suspended license, no insurance, and in addition to that, had received 93 traffic violations, including 20 speeding tickets, again, minimum, according to the online records obtained by the New York Post. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about an avenue of criminality that we often never really discuss on this particular channel, which of course is unchecked traffic violations, which of course, when you get to this level, this much of an extreme, obviously somebody needs to be held accountable for. But of course, New York state laws, like bail reform, don't actually allow you to punish people that, repeat offend, drive on a suspended license in any kind of significant way. And that's exactly what we see in this particular case. And of course, to make matters even worse, even more ridiculous, not only are two kids and their mother dead, another kid is fighting for his life in the hospital, but the woman at the center of this happens to have said repeatedly, according to the Post, that she's an adrenaline junkie, she has a need for speed, and when she was taken out of the vehicle by the police, she told them it wasn't her fault, she was possessed by a demon. Now, again, this is ridiculous from top to bottom, and we're gonna have to break this down. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
This afternoon, lawmakers will rally hoping what happened on Saturday will never happen again. That has the fourth victim, the 4-year-old boy, is recovering here at Maimonides Medical Center. But the harsh reality is that when he wakes up, his mother and his two siblings' lives were cut far too short. Will unfortunately be his new normal.
So as of right now, according to that local news clip that I just showed you, the 4-year-old boy is expected to recover. Of course, he's going to wake up to a world where his mother is gone. He is, of course, the child of a single mother, and his two sisters are gone, which is absolutely tragic and ridiculous. But of course, this is due to the fact that a criminal decided that she was above the law, that she was going to drive on a suspended license, that she didn't give a damn about the consequences. And because of that, because she didn't even have insurance for this vehicle, this kid is likely not even going to have any real kind of compensation in order to help him deal with the trauma of this particular crash. Now, we go to this New York Post article, and I just want to point out for everybody that a lot of people were offended by the headline of this article, but I think I should explain it so you guys can understand that offense is a little bit ridiculous. So the headline is Glam Wig Maker accused of killing New York City mom, two kids in horrific crash, allegedly bragged about the need for speed. So because the internet is overly sensitive and stupid in every possible way, many people interpreted this headline as them referring to the wig maker as Glam, rather than the fact that she makes glamorous wigs, high-end wigs, which is what her actual job is. So I just want to make that clear for everybody that that's not actually the point of the headline. Maybe people were thrown off based on the way that this article appeared on Twitter, which showed a nice image of the alleged perpetrator in this particular instance, but it is the substance of this particular issue that matters more than anything, and that's what I want to get into.
I want to get straight to some surveillance video right now, and this is a memory of the family's final steps walking to a relative's house before mother Natasha and her daughters 8-year-old Diana and 5-year-old Deborah were killed.
So they show you the surveillance footage right here of these kids walking. This is the last known video of them other than the dash cam that actually apparently captured this horrific crash that is obviously not being released to the public. But I think it's important for you guys to understand that they're walking in an area where you can expect a lot of pedestrians to be. This is not something like a freeway or anything of the sort. So this woman was speeding in an area where you are very likely to encounter pedestrians and, of course, people on bicycles. And again, according to the New York Post article, this is a woman, the alleged perpetrator in this particular instance, that could not stop speeding. She just felt the need to do it constantly, and of course, that ended up leading to these tragic results. Miriam Yarimi, age 35, who is accused of smashing her Audi A4 into the family in Gravesend on Saturday afternoon, had previously boasted about needing to have a fast vehicle. One of her acquaintances told the Post, quote, "She always talked about how she drove fast and wanted fast cars," said the pal, who of course did not want to be named. And we actually have a picture of her that says, "POV, a year ago I was completely broke. Today I built my first Porsche 718 Boxer S in custom black and white." And again, we have a photo that corresponds to that. Quote, "She told me that she's an adrenaline junkie and always needs a thrill, and she needed a fast car." Yarimi, who had racked up a slew of traffic violations and speeding tickets in her now wrecked Audi, had only just posted on social media about snapping up the Porsche Boxer. Quote, "She would always say she has a need for speed and she loves adrenaline. She can't sit still. That's why she wanted to buy the Porsche," the acquaintance claimed. Quote, "She's like, I love to race people. That's why I want to buy that Porsche." Now, of course, we have a photo of her with what looks like the Audi in question, and I will just point out that the Post had this listed as an Audi A4, but in that photo, it is clearly an Audi A3, and you could see the custom license plate right there. Now, the photos of her in a Porsche saying that she's about to buy it, and of course, the photos of her with her own Audi obviously should be red flags to people, because the woman had a suspended license. She should not be able to buy any type of vehicle. She can't get insurance for the vehicle, but of course, that did not deter her, because again, she had a need for speed and she was an adrenaline junkie and she loved to race people, and all of that might sound fine and dandy if you're an absolute idiot who thinks that when you press hard on gas pedal and car go faster, that somehow expresses any kind of talent. But in the normal world, when you're speeding on regular ordinary residential streets, you're putting people in danger for your own fun and your own amusement. But again, this just goes to the level of entitlement that this woman was operating with, and that entitlement ended up costing 3 people their lives and completely devastated the life of a young 5-year-old boy who, again, now has to wake up to find out that not only his mother and sole caretaker is gone, but his 2 sisters are also gone as well.
Police have charged the driver behind the wheel, 32-year-old Miriam Yarimi, with multiple counts of manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide, and assault in the 2nd degree, and a slew of other charges following her speeding vehicle slamming into an Uber with passengers, including 3 children who are all okay, and then hit this family before the vehicle flipped.
Now, you'll notice from the local news segment right there that there is significant damage to another vehicle, and according to the dash cam that apparently does exist and is the basis for the charges against this particular woman, she was going at least 50 miles an hour in a 25 zone, likely going even faster, when she ended up hitting into that Uber that was waiting right there, careened off the Uber, ended up hitting the family that was crossing the street after a Shabbat service, and then she ended up flipping her vehicle and ending up in that destroyed state. And you can tell by the damage to the initial Uber that she hit that she had to be going at an extraordinary speed, because for her to transfer the momentum from that Uber to again be able to run down an entire family of 4 and then still have enough momentum to flip over multiple times and end up with her car in this destroyed state. Obviously, this woman was driving like a maniac, which makes sense because she has a long history of driving like a maniac. And the thing is, when you get 20 speeding tickets, when you have 93 violations behind the wheel of the car, your license has to be suspended long ago. Again, you have to get all these violations within an 18-month period for them to be on your record that is easily publicly available. And if that is the case, the question is, she had to have been pulled over at some point in time while she had a suspended license. And if that is the case, why wasn't there an arrest made? Why wasn't this woman held accountable? And one of the reasons why is because we don't take a lot of these violations all that serious. Again, if you wrote her 19th speeding ticket, if she was blazing past you, why not initiate an arrest? Why not try to teach her a lesson? And more importantly, if you're one of these individuals who is clearly driving like a maniac and you're being hit with all these consequences, maybe internalize that lesson and realize that you should not be doing that. There is a reason why we have some of these laws, and this is a perfect example of that reason.
Now, yesterday, loved ones in the Hasidic community said their final goodbyes, all a part of the painful reality that this family is gone forever. The 3 victims' remains were flown back to Israel, where they will be buried today. Now, while some reflect on their lives, lawmakers are just outraged by the driver's actions.
With 93 violations, with $10,000 of unpaid fines.
And a suspended license.
With a suspended license, that is correct, yes.
You see, people often ask me why I hate progressives, why I hate progressive governance, and this is a perfect example of this. The progressives pitched you a bunch of different various sob stories about people who got traffic violations, couldn't pay those traffic violations, and then they ended up getting arrested and were sent to jail due to the fact that they just couldn't pay. But in this particular case, you have a woman with extraordinarily high traffic violations, over $10,000 in fines and fees, and she was refusing to pay them. And the protections that were put in so we don't criminalize poverty, so we don't arrest poverty, so we don't hurt people because they're poor, ended up protecting somebody who not 2 weeks ago was talking about how she was shopping for a custom-built Porsche. This woman who is wealthy, who is successful, who again makes luxury wigs, who has multiple different luxury cars, had $10,000 in traffic fines that she wasn't paying, and not a bench warrant was issued for her. Not any kind of moves in order to arrest her, in order to incarcerate her, based on the fact that she's not paying the fines, because a lot of progressives have decided that, you know what, these traffic fines leading to anybody going to jail, that's like basically a civil rights issue. Oh my God, we're just hurting the poor and prosecuting the poor by having any consequences for them. So let's remove that from the books. Let's take that off the record. So that way we could have a more free and equitable society. Guess what? That equitable society flew into that family at over double the speed limit because stupid ass progressives in the city and in the state of New York don't want to prosecute anyone for anything, don't want to incarcerate anyone from anything, and have decided that poor people that make traffic violations part of their daily routine need to be protected, even though, again, the reason why we end up charging those fines is as a deterrent. The reason why we end up incarcerating people who don't pay those fines is because that kind of mindset, that kind of activity is somebody who is not forward thinking and honestly would likely be taking stupid ass risks. And the result of pulling back those barriers, taking down that fence that protected us, was these 3 people dying. Was this kid growing up without a mother and without his 2 siblings? And by the way, he's not even awake at the time that they decided that they're going to bury these individuals. Doesn't even get to attend the funeral services to say goodbye with the people of his community.
75% of drivers with a suspended license get behind the wheel anyway, and they kill people. And they destroy families. There is no law, no mechanism in the state of New York, the city of New York, or any local government that allows us to restrict the ability of that vehicle to be operated on our streets in such an unsafe manner.
You know, over the years, I've become more and more fond of the phrase, you do not hate the progressives enough. However mad you get at them, however much disdain that you have for them, it needs to go up 10x, and a perfect example is what we just heard right there. New York City lawmakers, or New York State lawmakers, who really gives a damn at this point in time, Democrats in New York, have decided that they're going to craft new legislation in order to crack down on the vehicles of reckless drivers. They want to punish the vehicles and establish limitations for the cars, because the real issue in their mind is, of course, the tool, not the individual. And I will just point out for everybody out there in the audience that 2 weeks ago, this woman was talking about buying a different vehicle, an even more sportier sports car, a Porsche, that she could drive even more crazy. So putting restrictions, imposing those on the Audi, would not actually have prevented her from driving like a maniac and potentially hitting and killing someone else. You know what would have? If somebody would have said, damn, this woman has $10,000 plus in fines, 93 violations, 20 plus of those violations are speeding tickets, idiots, maybe, just maybe, she deserves some accountability. Maybe, just maybe, she should be thrown in jail. But instead, all of these idiot progressives have decided that driving like a maniac is no big deal because the alternative is punishing the poor. Oh my God, if we put poor people in jail for, committing crimes, that would just be so inequitable that we have to pass laws, because of course you have to have equal application of the law, that protect wealthy people buying luxury cars and flouting said laws. And again, this woman talking about how she was possessed by a demon, honestly, shut up. Shut your stupid face. Serve your time. Have some dignity. Have some honor. Plead guilty. Get sent to a New York State prison, which of course is understaffed by corrections officers, and get released back onto the streets to reoffend again, because that's the system that we have. I don't want to hear about your demon possession or any of your stupid ass things about how you're an adrenaline junkie and you're so special. You killed somebody, 3 people, destroyed a family because you wanted to vroom vroom fast on a residential street. You're a terrible person, and we should have had the tools to at least punish you, at least remove you from society temporarily, but that has been systematically stripped away by the progressives in the city and the statewide government, and I'm disgusted by it. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about absolute craziness in New York City. What else is new? Till next time.